is an interesting subject because we kind of think, okay, Web3 startup, I'm gonna launch a token, but maybe it's better actually to spend 5 minutes and thinking few pros and cons. So you launch a startup, you launch a token that helps you get a community, and the community is going to be then later your customers and giving you the typical reasons for why we launch tokens. Then maybe the tokens start being valuable, and the ones you kept for your team can actually fund your team. People are going to vote on your governance, so you have an internal democracy, and people who have a say in your startup are going to love you even more. So it acts as a glue, it acts as a coordination tool. It's really, really powerful, right? And that's the theory. In practice, it doesn't really work that way most of the times. And I'm going to tell you what happens often, maybe most of the times. And the short version is like, when money is involved, everything gets kind of complicated, and greed gets in the picture, expectations, and many other things. First of all, governance. Nobody cares to vote. No one wants to vote, because you have not only to take your wallet and go on some website and choose amongst the proposals, like any kind of proposal you may have for your startup. You have to read the proposal, and then you have to take a decision. It's a lot of cognitive work, and it's, unless you're really passionate about one startup, you won't do that, because you're following 10 startups, 20 startups, 30 startups. Especially if you're actually trying to make money, you just want the token to go up. So you are not taking time. So what happens mostly is like, okay, you do your startup, you launch a proposal, and you're gonna have some people getting in, seeing which option got the most votes, and you vote together, because if most people did that, it means this is the good thing. Or you're gonna be ignored, and most of the times maybe 3% of people with tokens vote. Or even worse, you get co-opted. Even big DeFi projects with lots of money, like treasuries of millions or even billions sometimes, get co-opted, because if nobody's voting, I can buy a lot of those tokens, and I can vote. I can originate a proposal sometimes saying, give me a grant of 10 million or 100 million, and then you vote it and you get 100 million. Nobody can stop you, because the DAO is decentralized. And this happened. There's been cases like in Uniswap, which is a huge project where they gave, I think, 10 or 100 millions, I don't remember, for some research, whatever, or maybe for engaging with a regulator. Anyway, these are professional treasury leakers or suckers or whatever, so it's really, really dangerous. Governance is great. I was talking with you, Steve, the other day. Governance has a lot of, you can really use governance to involve the community, but there's not yet one clear framework for which you say, okay, governance like this is going to work. It's a lot of experimentations. We did a lot with Trips community, and it was really, really good. But again, it's very, very complicated. So governance makes things more difficult, right? Sometimes you have a community which says, we want to have a voice, we want to vote. It's a decentralized project, so why the hell you're deciding everything? You give them voting, and then they don't vote, right? So that's one thing. Another thing is that when you have a token, you are attracting speculators, and this is an information game. Who wins is the one who pays more attention, is more able to collect data and analyze data. So professional speculators are able to get into a token and make it pump, and then dump it on you or dump it on your community. And most of the times, your token is going to dump 90% in the cycles. Let's see a few examples here. So we have this token here, Bitcoin, which is the most stable. And you can see that it keeps crashing. Now, Bitcoin is crashing up, which is good, but it does crash. And we know how it feels when it goes from 69 to 20 or 15. And this is Bitcoin. We know that it's going to go up again, right? BNB, which is the fourth in market cap, does something pretty similar. Again, it's also crashing a little bit up, so in the long term it goes up, but you're not going to have Bitcoin or BNB. You're going to have a token like maybe Uniswap, which goes to $40. Oh my God, $40. We got airdrops of 400 uni each. I got 1,600 of them. If I had sold at the top, that would have been what? 160. 1,600 times 40. I don't know. Do the math. I don't want to do it. So you see, it's crashed. It went a little bit up recently and it's down again. And this is one of the most serious projects. They can turn on the fee switch. Basically, they can say from tomorrow, a bit of the fees go in the token to buy the token, so it's going to go up. So most of the projects in startups don't have this possibility at the moment. That's gonna be your token, basically, right? You launch, lots of hype. Maybe you launch at the right time. Everything goes up in that right time. You feel like, my token is up. I launched a token and now I got like $10 million in a treasury, and then you're the best and you have all the money in the world. Forget the VCs, we can do everything by ourselves, and then boom, it goes down 90, 99%. Sometimes it goes down, most of the times, 90%, and then 90% again, then 90% again. And then it keeps going down, then he has another bull run, but you see the bull run, how different it is, and then it crashes again. That's gonna be your token probably. And this has nothing to do, or like, is it 1% of what you can do influences this? In other words, this is the macro cycle of crypto. It doesn't matter how good you are, how good your token is, etc. Unless your token is actually connected, it's actually making money. So let's say you are selling services and crypto, and a bit of these sales goes to buy your token. So you have a base, right? This is really rare. Most tokens are just based on potential, not actual revenue, right? So before you launch a token, think that probably this is what's going to happen, right? And think about your community, which they treated you like a god at that point, and then starts crashing, and you got thousands of people screaming at you, saying, "When moon, and you ruined my family. My wife left me." You're gonna get these messages, and you say, "It's not my fault. It's like it's the market. My wife left me anyway. I don't care about the market." It can be really horrible, right? So before you launch a token, think about this. It's because this is the most probable outcome. Now, that's the past. Maybe in the next cycle, we mature as an industry, and we're gonna have better ways to manage tokens. For instance, in RWA, so real world assets, if your token is connected to something valuable in the real world, like a glamping or land, there's a base, right? Let's say that you buy tokenized glamping, which is worth $1 million, and you have 1 million tokens, a token is worth $1. So unless the glamping price goes to half, your token is going to be worth $1. So you say, I'm fine. No, because maybe it's going to go to $100, which is completely irrational. And then it drops to $2 and then $1, and you're going to have exactly the same problem, because we're always thinking, how can I make my token not crash? And we never think, how can I make it not go too high? And probably we have to start thinking, when it reaches some kinds of prices, you have to dump the token, you have to sell it. But then the community is saying, why are you selling the token? I was thinking you're going to make me rich. It's really, really difficult, right? So, really complicated. That's basically all I want to say about token launches. It's a bit like governance. We need to find the formula which works, and we haven't found it yet, mostly because we are not making revenue. We are not making, there's no Web3 and travel projects which actually making a lot of revenue, and then they can support the token. Tokens are very complex products, because when you explain it to your friends who are not in crypto, you go like, what is a token? Well, it's like a share, yes. Partly, it's also a share. It's a voting mechanism. It allows you to vote. It's ownership. It's also a meme. There's always this meme effect, because a share doesn't go up 100x just because the market's going up. So very complex. I don't even want to get into the regulation because you launch a token, you expose yourself to lots of regulation, security, utility, and stuff like this. Am I saying don't launch a token? No, I'm just saying think about every aspect. It's incredible that we are able to create such a tool, which can really allow us to launch a project and support it in different ways. But we are still in the very experimental phase, and yeah. Let me add something which. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please give Beat. There you go. Yeah, yeah.
Hello. Number one is a statement, not a question. Come back to the question. So when we did the Tech Trees global call for startups, 75% of the startups said that they would want to launch a token, which I thought was pretty impressive. Everybody, well, I'd probably do that too, but I thought it's a big number. So my question to you is, Luca. Number one, when you said voting is difficult, so what are the best models to keep voters engaged?
Yeah.
And number two will be when you said, because I'm not a shit old coiner. So I really don't know. So when the tokens crash like -90%, are they then normally back to a pre-sale level, or what is the level where they are? So what is there a pattern which you have detected over the years?
The second question is hard. I don't really know. I have to check.
Sometimes there's no pre-sales for token. They just launch a pool and the market is open. So, sorry. I was saying sometimes there's no pre-sales for token. You can do pre-sales or you can open a pool in Uniswap and then the market is open and they start trading. So sometimes they go -90% or they go up or they go to zero. Another thing that you didn't mention, Luca, when the price goes up or down so much is also because of the illiquidity. If the market cap is very small, it's very easy to move the price. So Bitcoin is like in the billions, so it takes a lot of money. But Shiba Inu is much smaller, or if you launch a token, you have a micro capitalization. So if someone with a bit of money comes, the token is going to spike, and the same is going to crash. So there's a lot of factors. So I think your question, the second one, doesn't have an answer because every is unregulated, the token launch. So everybody's doing different. There is pre-sales or pre-allocation or not, or mining like Bitcoin. Ethereum Foundation keeping a lot and dumping now. Nobody knows why. Because they said they spend 100 million per year doing nobody knows
Grants
what. So friends and family. So it's impossible to answer on a general scale.
Remind me the first question.
The governance is there.
Yeah. Yes. Well, in those years we learned a bit, right? We started saying if I give you a token, you're going to vote. Then we saw that most people don't vote. The state of the art now is delegation, in which let's say that you get tokens, but you don't want to follow the project, but you can delegate your token rights to a person who's actually following the project. You don't give the token, just the token rights, right? Token rights. For instance, I delegate often to a guy who lives in Berlin, a Greek guy, Lefteris, sorry, too long surname, who is running an open source portfolio tracker. He really follows everything, and I trust him. So I give him always, when he's participating to one of those, I give him my token voting rights, and that already improves a lot the quality of the voting, right? And then the problem is that this requires a lot of work. So some of these projects pay you to do that. The moment you pay people to do things, everybody wants to do it, and then you never know if they're motivated by money, they're not going to vote, after careful consideration. They're just going to vote to show that they voted, and then they get paid. So it's one of those things. It works when it's voluntarily, like when it's not paid. But how much work can you do, and how many people are really so interested to do this. So that's a big improvement we've seen, but it's not yet the solution. So if you launch a token and you want to do governance, you should do the delegate part. That doesn't mean that you're going to find delegates interested, especially if the project is small, right?
There's also the promise of airdrop. If you vote, maybe later if they do an airdrop of token, you are eligible to get the airdrop. So a lot of people kind of farm the airdrop. Like there is a DAO, so they vote and vote, hoping that one day they're going to airdrop token back. So it's all about the incentive. So normally if you have a little stake in some tokens, your skin in the game is so small that you don't bother because you have too many tokens. But if you delegate, this guy have like millions now, so he's interested in for himself and the other. And also the voting power, if you have a lot of delegates that trust you, is bigger, so you can influence the decision, whereas Luca or me, we only have a small amount of tokens. So because sometimes you also vote based on how much your bag is large, basically.
And you introduce another problem, because you do your token, how are you going to distribute it? You cannot issue a token and keep it for yourself. You have to give it around. There was a time where we could do ICOs, which, in my opinion, to date was the best way to distribute tokens. If you want to buy it, for speculation, just buy it at the same price everybody else does. This is now illegal, so now the VCs buy it cheap and then they dump it on retail. So regulations really messed this up, in my opinion. And so the other way is to do airdrops. Anybody who's actually using the protocol or using similar protocols is going to get free tokens. But even these airdrops, since everything starts from venture capital, are made to give to retail, or retail hypes it, and then it's dumped by the team or by the investors. So it's also very difficult to distribute it fairly, right? I'm very excited about a recent project. It's called Morpheus. You've seen it. One of the things they innovated is how you distribute the token. And I'm going to have to explain it to you, but it's like DeFi on DeFi on DeFi. But I'll try anyway. So you all know that you can, if you have ETH, you can now stake it. So you have 10 ETH, $30,000. You stake them. Either on your computer, on your node, but this is very hard, and you need 32 of them actually, or you go on a website like Lido, which is a liquid staking website. So you put it in their website, and they give you, they stake it in Ethereum. They earn, like they say, it's 3% more or less per year. They keep 10% of that. They give you 2.9 or whatever, right? So you're earning extra Ethereum, ETH, right? And then with these are tokens from maybe a year ago or something, Eigenlayer came up and said, these tokens, so you put ETH and they gave you ST ETH. Now you can restake them in other projects, right? And earn more tokens from other projects. And Morpheus did this crazy interesting thing, in my opinion, which is you have these Lido tokens, ST ETH, which are worth an ETH each. You stake them in their contracts, and they give you their token, right? More, OR. And they keep the 3%. And they have lots of ETH in their contract, and they get 3% ETH from all this. They basically have created a money machine, they're earning, and they use this money to develop the project, right? And I didn't have to buy anything, so I didn't have to buy a token. I simply took my ETH, I put them in Lido, I took the ST ETH, I staked it there, and I started earning more. I can't lose, even if it goes to zero. Okay, I lost the 3% I would have learned on staking, but I wasn't staking anyway. And this is an incredible way for startups to raise money. The point is, and it's completely decentralized. These contracts are completely decentralized. So it's kind of the new ICO, in a way, but without selling a token. And it's more like, park your money in my contract and you're going to get my tokens, rather than give me your money and give you my token. The problem is that there's not many people is anybody restaking here? Anybody has Lido tokens or stuff like this? Staking it, you see? So it's a Web3 travel conference. So, well, staking first? Okay, staking a few. And restaking, you restaking it already? Okay. Where? Okay, Bundle. So very few, right? So if this grows, then it is more interesting. But at the same time, very few projects know about that, and very few people are doing it. So there's an opportunity there. So it's on Morpheus. You can check it out. I'm done with this question.
Maybe I can also.
There you go, Robert. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we are one of the Tectris companies that is launching a token already.
Right.
So it's not an idea. We're actually in the middle of doing that. So we have about 4 weeks or so before the public launch of that. And I could just maybe give a couple of things, and I'm happy to talk with people afterwards. If you're thinking about launching a token, there's really a lot to consider. I mean, one thing is you can't start too early. This is not something that you can do at the last minute, even though in Web3 people say you can do things the next day or something like that. It just doesn't happen. Secondly, it's very dynamic landscape, so things are changing. Like staking is changing. People have different ideas on staking. I was speaking at a morning show this morning, and actually I advertised our conference, so you can check it out. Now people know what we're doing here, the visionaries in travel. But we were talking about the staking and restaking, things like that, and is this, like Vitalik says, are we just like chasing our tail and sort of consuming ourselves with it? And I think that if you're really considering launching a token, you first of all need to align really good advisors in the process who are really plugged in with what's really happening in the market. Because as a CEO, for example, I've got to run all the rest of the aspects of my business, and then I've got to completely figure out a whole new area, which is like the token launch and how all the dynamics work there. So I think equipping yourself with advisors that actually know what they're talking about, and then several of them, because they all have different opinions. So as a CEO, you really need to make the decisions yourself. You don't just go with what the advisor is saying, but you need a lot of them in the room in order to ascertain what the best approach is. Another thing that we learned is the post-launch phase is something that we are having to work on a lot now, whereas we weren't considering it as much earlier. And I think a lot of projects fall for this like thing of they do the TGE, the token generation event, and then like that's it. But actually, if you're going to see some price variance there and any sort of like dip over the coming months, you have to be constantly communicating with your community on what you're actually building over the long term to get them engaged. So it's not enough just to stake the token and just basically taking the token off the market so people aren't selling it. You have to really do a good job of engaging for the long term, especially as most projects that are launching, I mean, their projects are still early stage. I mean, they're not like later stage like projects. And so I think it's taken several weeks of consideration of like how to engineer that and then how to design like the marketing plan and stuff like that. So it's a lot of work. And then in terms of like price manipulation and stability and things like that, it's very difficult to do that from like a market making approach. You can't do that in an automated sense. You can do a little bit, so you can interfere a little bit to help your token holders. But you can't stabilize the price at a specific point. Or you can, but you end up eating up all the proceeds from the token sales that you've already done. So I see a lot of that now, and you get this weird advice from people like, okay, you just need tons of stable coins in the liquidity pool because you have to eat back all of the dip. And I think that's really bad advice because you've raised the money anyway, and then immediately you have to use that capital back to buy back the token in order to stabilize the price. So all of that in sort of a nutshell, it's such an evolving scene right now that I think if you're launching in 6 months, you're going to need to completely reevaluate like the launch period. So my experience I'm doing right now will probably be only like 50% applicable to what you're doing in maybe like 6 or 9 months in the future.
An image which helps is to think that your token is like a small little boat in the ocean. The waves are just too big for you, right? So you have little control. But you know, if you are really careful and you just say you adapt, maybe you can actually go, right? That's kind of the approach. Mike.
Can I borrow your browser just to show one thing real quick?
Yeah.
Because I want to piggyback on the token raise and a lot of the points that you talk about, and I just want to give you guys one resource to kind of like look into.
Yep, go ahead.
Can I just type?
Yeah, you see here.
Okay. So take a look at this startup, if you will, this company, and let me see where the mouse is. So this was the company that I invested in, and I thought it was super cool because they basically saw the ICO boom and bust, and then they wanted to do it in a regulated way. So they went through everything in terms of regulation in the States. They're the first SEC fully regulated security token offering platform. And then they have all the FINRA, the money anyways, let me just bring this up. This is the part I kind of want to just like show you guys. If you're trying to raise like the ICO ways, but you wanted to do it in a regulated way, it's the STO way. It's the security token offering, right? So if you want to do a little bit of learning in terms of like what are all the things that you need to kind of consider, I would definitely like recommend checking out their website just to learn a little bit about like, hey, do you need a community to go through in terms of like, is there gonna be a market for your token offering, right? And then, so anyways, I just kind of I don't want to take up too much time, but I just want to introduce you guys to this and you can take a look at it. And then one thing real quick, just to give you an example. These are some of the startups that have done an STO and raised and have liquidity on their ATS.
Watford is from Peter McCormack, is it correct? Watford football team, is it Peter McCormack from Bitcoin? Is it? No, it's Bedford. All right, okay. Thanks, Mike. So, yeah, any other questions? Otherwise, we're done with this. Cool. All right, thank you. Clapping is good, feels good.